Hello everyone, it's Marcel here today. I wanted to speak a little bit about office hot, the artificial inflation that occurs for a woman in a workplace when there are a lack of better options around for men to talk to, as well as cover a little bit in the differences between men and women and how we interact in the workplace. About a week ago, one of my subordinates came up to me and started complaining about how the women that were there weren't getting anything done, and worse still, they were distracting basically half of the men in the room to them as opposed to letting them get anything done. There was like this vortex of giggles and bullshit where these women were, and he couldn't figure it out because they were not attractive, at least not by either of our standards. It was almost cringeworthy to watch. It really reminded me of back when I was blue pill and I used to, cater to women in the workplace. And hindsight's 20/20, right? You think back on the things that you did before you red pilled, and it just, Word to the wise: don't date at work. Just for any gender, don't do it. It's not worth it. There's too much at risk with a job, and as a male, the woman is already in enough power when it comes to society right now as the ability to destroy the guy's life. But don't put your job at risk also. There's too much potential for her to just get bored and find some destructive way to end the relationship that involves you getting fired and pulled out of the way so she doesn't have to deal with you. Anyway, I would say a great number of the women that I have dated, I've either met at work or I've worked with directly. In fact, my ex-fiancée was my boss. A few of those girlfriends turned out from customers or from colleagues, so it really happens more than we think. And how often do people get married with their, somebody that they've worked with for years, or their high school sweetheart? It's natural that people will gravitate to the nicest thing they can find within reach. And it's unfortunate that that's so limiting, but it's the way people think. All other things being equal and no encouragement from the woman's side of it, it's entirely possible that a person will start to feel chemistry with someone simply because they're around them. We start noticing nice things about them. We start forgiving the flaws. They're the only person we look at, so we get used to it. It would be foolish to think that people don't use that to their advantage. Of course they do. Now, having said that, when it comes to women specifically and working with them, I'm reminded of some advice that I was given by an old rancher that I used to work for in my early teens. And he said to me, "Marcel, if you hire a kid," referring to a teen like me, "you've hired the work of one kid. If you hire two kids, you've hired the effort of half a kid. And if you hire three kids, you've basically hired no one at all. Don't bother, don't waste your time. Because they will all interact with each other and goof off and nothing will get done. So the less is more, because you can actually manage the situation properly." Now, when I think of women in the workplace today, now this is going to catch me some shit, I can feel it coming. They're like kids. They really are. And I know a lot of other people are talking about that women are being treated and are becoming basically big children. So when you hire a woman and she's alone, you'll get the work out of her that you expect. Like you've hired a woman. But if you hire two women, then they're going to talk together and you'll get less than that. If you hire three or more, you get where this is going. But then you add men in the mix, and for every woman you hire, you have negated the work of one man. The likeliness is very high that all she's going to do is get the attention of that guy and get him to do the work for her. And she'll make it seem like they're talking and just having a good time, and he'll wind up lifting boxes. The chivalry will kick in, whether she even asks for it or not. That's what I've been seeing happening. I'm not talking recently, this is what I've noticed over the years happening. They get the guys to do the work for them, especially in the gritty, hard, dirty jobs that we do. They're not going to do that stuff. They're going to get somebody else to do it. They're going to sit there and talk. If you incorporate multiple men in that environment, they will draw the attention of as many of them as they can. And the guys are just going to eat it up. And it doesn't matter if she's actually attractive, because the artificial inflation scenario, it's going to boost her market value just because she's the only option. I remember when I first got into the military, and you got to figure this was over a decade ago. So it's been a while, not that long, but long enough that things have changed since then. The group that I trained with was entirely male. There were no women soldiers, there were no women sergeants, no bosses. It was all men. And that may have been coincidence, but that's just the way that it worked out. And we had a blast. We were rough and gritty and violent. Nobody gave a shit about each other's feelings. If you had a problem with someone, you kicked the shit out of them, and if they didn't like that, they'd kick the shit out of you. It was epic. And we were all so happy. Even though it was rough, we were happy. So much got done, and there were very little real arguments or drama. You know, I say that, and I wonder how many people would be afraid in that sort of scenario. Specifically, how many men would be afraid in that environment. Culture is really changing nowadays to where, people can't fight. There's no physical contact between people. We're all basically being raised to act like women. I very quickly lost my fear of physical aggression. I began to realize that there wasn't really anything another individual could do to me under normal context that was a threat to my life. Think back on that movie, Fight Club. Excellent movie. One of the best movies ever made. To live without fear is essentially freedom. And a lot of people nowadays don't understand that. And possibly never will. Anyway, I digress. So in that training, there was one set of standards that we all had to meet. And everybody made it through. Nobody got seriously hurt. And we were all better and stronger for the experience, at least from what I could tell. Then when the day came, that place and time that we got females into our group, and everything changed. More on an emotional level than anything, because not only were we expected at that point to have two standards, there was the standard for men and there was the standard for women, but we also had to cater to their needs from that point forward. Certain things weren't allowed anymore. We couldn't joke the same way. We couldn't act the same way. We couldn't even get the same kind of discipline because females are physically less able to do the same things that men are. It wasn't uncalled for us to get an order to go low crawl through, 100 meters of mud. And you can't do that to a female. She is either not capable or she's literally not going to be willing to do that. But we loved it. We loved that kind of challenge, and we took it head on. Wasn't allowed anymore. Furthermore, there's this expectation to put women on priority over men. I mean, think of like that Will Smith movie, I, Robot, save the girl, all that crap. Why? Why is there any difference? Are people not equal? That kind of mindset carries on in the job field too. We're expected to treat them differently. We become babysitters in a sense because they're all basically big children. Continuing my story, so we got females into our group, and at that point the arguments started happening. The drama began because there was this sort of a competition for the attention back and forth, going both ways, that wasn't there before. And furthermore, all of a sudden guys started thinking with their cocks instead of thinking with their heads. It became a grabs for who could get the best girl as opposed to who could get the most done or who could accomplish the most, climb the highest. It was now all about the women. They took 90% of the attention of everybody that was around. Anyway, my point with all of that is when I say that having women around makes a difference in a workplace, or more importantly, mixing the genders in the workplace has an effect on how much gets done. I say it from a sense of personal experience. I have witnessed both cases and seen the difference that it can make. And not just in that one isolated case. I can't believe that I'm the only person that's noticed this, that there is a difference when women are around. All in all, some good solid advice that I'd give to anybody is don't get caught up in the drama at work. It's not worth it. Doesn't matter who it's coming from. Leave work at work. Don't take it home with you. Certainly don't take it home to your bedroom. Leave it at the office. Because at the end of the day, you're there for a paycheck. There's no reason to make it harder than it has to be. And in honesty, you can probably do a lot better than the very few options you have that you're working with. Finally, in regards to the political correctness and the over-emotional attitudes, the drama that's occurring nowadays, and I don't exclusively blame that on women, best I can tell you is not to live in fear. Don't allow that attitude to make you scared of other people for any reason, for their repercussions, for their attitudes, for fear of violence. Don't be afraid of people. Don't let that fear drive you to start apologizing to social justice warriors or something, because that's how they win. There's no point to, and it's no way to live. Now, don't misconstrue that as me telling you to take on your local feminist, but if you choose to do so, please get it on video. That's about all I have today for that topic. If you agree, disagree, think I'm full of shit, please tell me down below. I'd love to hear your comments. If you want to hear more on subjects like this, like and subscribe.